Hello, and welcome to I Am Not For Everyone, the podcast for those looking to release shame, heal from trauma, and feel really, really good being their fully expressed, authentic selves. My name's Dr. Lee, and I am a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and a certified clinical trauma professional, as well as a mom, wife, and a human being navigating the world with complex PTSD. Season 1 of this podcast came about because I was tired of spending decades living in a shame-filled, trauma-laden body and brain. And after doing a lot of work and learning how to return to a safe, grounded place in my life, I knew it was time for me to take my experience in education and use my voice to unsilence myself, to release the leftover shame, and to give others permission to do the same. On Season 2 of this podcast, I'm going to be sharing my experience in education. But even more importantly, I'm going to be bringing on some incredible guests who are going to unsilence themselves. They're going to share their own stories of trauma, shame, and their journeys to healing, resiliency, and self-acceptance. While I believe these episodes will be deeply impactful, I do want to add a disclaimer that we're going to be talking about some potentially triggering topics. So please take the invitation to pause or skip or fast forward on any episode, and to treat yourself gracefully and kindly after each time that you listen. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of I Am Not For Everyone. I am so excited. I have the fabulous Kim Coffin here with me. Kim and I connected last year in a mastermind that we were in together. She is fabulous. I'm going to let her tell you all about herself, but I'm so stoked for you to be here, Kim. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really, really happy to spend this little time with you.
Yeah. And actually, I was on your when was I on your podcast? That was a while ago now, right?
I think it was last September.
Okay, so almost a year. Wow, was that a year ago? Holy cow. Okay, so we'll have to dig that episode up for people. I'm actually curious to listen to myself talk on that one and see what's changed.
It was a real juicy one. We went into a lot of trauma talk and a lot of different stuff there. It was really, really juicy.
Yeah. So please tell the audience who you are, the work you're doing in the world, which is fabulous. Just give us all the details.
For sure. Thank you. So I am a trauma-informed empowerment and sexuality coach who does mainly my coaching through somatic coaching, really body-based coaching. I am a mom to 3 sexually empowered adults and teens. I say adults because one is now 21 and the other is now 18.
Oh my God.
And 15-year-old girl. And she's the youngest. And dog mom to 2. And I've been married for over 21 years now.
Wow. That's awesome.
Long time. So I teach women how to reconnect to their body, to their pussy, to heal heartbreak and shame at really that body-based level that I was talking about, so that they can reclaim their life, so they can step back into their unapologetic power all through sacred sexuality. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. Absolutely love what I do.
I got chills as you were saying that. I was like, oh, sacred. Yes, it is. It is sacred. And I love
you even butterflies.
Yeah. And I love that this is the work you do, because so often we talk about that the healing that we end up giving to the world, the goodness, the mission, and the passion that we take outward is due to things that happen to us, and is out of a desire to externally affect things that we've gone through that we knew were really hard, or that felt shameful, that felt traumatic. So I would be so honored if you would share that part of your story with us.
Absolutely. I would love to. Yeah, my story, I think that's where my butterflies came in. It was my stomach drop, because even though I'm really, really comfy with my story, it still makes my stomach drop every time I go to talk about it. So bear with me here. I can feel it shaking, all coming on. Yeah. At 15 and a half, I was 14 and a half, 15. I'm still trying to play with the year. It doesn't matter. I know exactly what day of the week it was. I know what I was wearing. I know everything else. But my stepfather sexually assaulted me. I woke up in the middle of the night to him sexually assaulting me. And I was shocked. I was mortified. He had been my stepfather for over 10 years. And I was total, shut right down, disconnect, stayed awake all night long. Finally figured out this brilliant idea. I knew how I could fix this. Like even then my brain was trying to figure it out. And I was like, I'll wait till he goes to work the next morning and I'll tell my mom. And I did. And she believed me. And for like 30 minutes, I was like, yay, ish, if you can be in a yay in that circumstance. And then she sent me to school, and which felt really, really like shocking to my system. But I'm like, okay, mom knows best, right? Like that's what you're thinking at that age still. And then within a couple of hours, she picked me up from school and made me sit in the front seat of the car. She said my stepfather wanted to talk to me. She was going to sit in the back seat. So holy trauma response again, like totally threw me in it. And she never said a word, and he denied everything. And it was very, very threatening in the way. I got up a lot of courage, said, I know what you did. I know you know what you did. And I got a very quick, it was the glance of, no, I didn't. And I knew right then and there I wasn't going to win this battle. And it was never spoken of again, ever, between my mom and I, or my stepfather and I. I was just shocked. And, I talked to some friends. I talked to youth group counselor at the time, a couple of months later, and people knew, but I really, really kept it under wraps because my whole life was blown up at that point. Like my mother was actually the hardest point looking back. That shame and that total abandonment from somebody who's supposed to keep us safe really played a part in so much of my life going forward in so many ways. So unfortunately, it took me 27 years to speak up. And that is what I hope nobody else does. Because looking back, my body was always giving me like signals and pain or problems nursing my first child with like mastitis showing up always in the left breast, which is where I was specifically one of the places I was sexually assaulted. So like all of this numbing and pain and body issues kept showing up, but I wasn't listening to it because I also knowing now have a narcissistic mother. So looking back and working through all of that and trying to keep her happy and making sure I was the good girl and the good mom and the good daughter and the good everything was still a huge, tight package that took me a long time to even face.
Whew.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of things in my body. The car situation, I had a deep-seated sense of rage come over me in that moment. For you and, thinking about my own experience. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners have their own experiences and are probably feeling some feelings right now listening to that story. I think just there's like a deeper sense of like sadness of just like abject, like just sadness for that 14, 15-ish girl that's like, okay, like I actually spoke up and did the thing. Like I did this really hard thing. And initially being met with good job and then having the, but not really.
There was a little more in there too. My sister remembers this. She actually, this is just looking back, I can see a woman, my mother, reacting in these places, right? She also says, so what do you want to do? Should we move out? Should we call the police? Like, should we? And she threw this on me and I didn't see it at the time, but obviously, but I can see now. And yes, I totally feel for that 14-year-old. And I've also done a shit ton of work healing it.
Absolutely.
And that's why I can come from this place and say, I can also see with this other woman being my mother, how she was caught in her trauma responses and how she was caught in probably a repetition from her life to my life and like total, utter disconnect. Don't know what to do here. Somebody else figure it out, even if it's my daughter.
Yeah. I think it's really beautiful that you've done the work to be able to see that. Cause I think that this is a place where actually shame comes up for a lot of people where it's a both and situation. And our society is really bad at both ands, right? We want it to be one thing or the other. And a lot of times it's, there's a famous child psychologist that says two things are true, right? The first thing that was true is that you were absolutely not met in the way that you needed to be met in that situation. You were asked to be an adult when you were still, by all intents and purposes, a child, an adolescent. And you were met with, I believe you, and then with, I don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was this initial sense of safety, and then the rug was pulled out. And the woman sitting across from you, the woman on the other side, has her own story and her own experiences that led her to be with this man, that led her to not know what to do in that situation, to dissociate herself. And like the ability to have compassion and understanding for that person while also having the rage and the sadness and the frustration or whatever emotions come up. I think that that's a really hard thing to do. It's incredibly hard to do, to hold both of those things in as truth simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that just speaks to my work and to my trainings and to my even more work, and to really just really dissecting every single little piece through it, and being able to come from a place of really seeing with neutrality what was happening.
Yeah. So you talked about some of the symptoms, the physical symptoms that you experienced. And I think that this is an important, I want to pull this out if you're okay with it, if you consent, for the listeners, because I think that a lot of people might also be having these symptoms or have had these physical manifestations of trauma and think, oh, this was illness. Oh, this was, due to injury. And in reality, we talk about the body keeping the score, right? The body stores the trauma when it doesn't have a chance to be released or discharged. And so what can you go into more of that?
Yeah. So biggest things I noticed right off the bat is I never really thought about my body in a negative manner ever before that. I can identify that point now. That's one. So I never had body issues. I never thought, oh, this is too big or this is too small. Nothing like that ever. That's one. I went into a lot of really SI and lower back and hip pain for years. It really came on after my first birth. The first birth I had in 2000. And then it just continued and continued. And in part of my healing, just to fast forward, where I saw the huge release and saw that this was connected was one of my School of Womenly Arts weekends that I was studying in. And just by really connecting to our rage and our grief and our sexuality, our pussy, and moving our body through what we would refer to as like a swamp or sensual movement, all of a sudden I was pain-free. And I was like, what the fuck? We are moving shit. And that was a huge one. And that's where I've made my aha. And I see it even today when I feel it start coming on. It's like, I'm not in my body enough. I'm not really connecting and releasing and allowing flow. And the mastitis was incredible, incredible, because I woke up, I never even really had a boyfriend. I'd kissed a boyfriend at that age, but nothing else. And I woke up with my stepfather on my left breast and hands in my panties per se. And my left breast, I was struggling so much to nurse my first baby with. I'm holding myself right now. For those who don't know, I'm just literally holding my boobs. Every time we switched sides, it was so hard to go there. And eventually, not even eventually, in 6 weeks, I got mastitis 3 times, all on the left breast, to the point I was sent to a specialist in Toronto to try and figure out why. And they couldn't figure out why. And I know now why.
Yeah. Ooh, you're actually bringing some stuff up for me, because there was one breast that was way harder to nurse on. That nipple was so much more painful. I got mastitis on that side, same 3 times. And I'm over here going, yeah, that tracks. That tracks in my own story. So thank you for sharing that, because you just connected the dots for me in something there. Can you, because this is your specialty, is the somatic piece. When you say out of your body, can you describe that more?
Yeah, I can try and describe me when I realized I was out, because I didn't realize I was out until I did, right? I actually felt like I was numb, or I wasn't really available from either breast or neck up, down. Everything breast, neck up. I was here, I was alive, but everything else actually felt what are you talking about? Numb. really numb. When it came to doing a hip circle and moving my body, I was like, I need some wine. Like, there's no way I can dance right now. Like, no, I'm all head. I was so in my head. It'll show up also in sex, where constantly in my head, oh, I'm not doing it right. Oh, that feels good. Oh, wait, no, it's gone. Okay, now maybe it's over. That's a big one, right? Oh, I got laundry to do. Oh my gosh, let's just hurry up here and pretend it's over so that it's over.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We get stuck in so many different ways in our heads. So there's a couple. I know I could come up with more, but
no, I love that. Because you're right. It's you're going to this very cerebral, thought-based space instead of actually paying attention and being able to drop into the sensations that are happening in your body. And I think the connection here is like that felt dangerous. That felt dangerous. And so your body's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And hearing this as your body is protecting you, your mind is protecting you in that moment, because I think so many women feel a lot of shame around that.
Totally. Something wrong with me.
Yeah.
There must be
why
something
can't I
wrong
get turned
with me.
on? Yeah.
And it also showed up hanging out with other women. So always thinking ahead what I was going to say next, never actually being present and having fun in the flow of the conversation. It showed up there too. That's a big one.
Wow. Which connects to why a lot of women feel uncomfortable connecting with other women. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why society has made it so that it's hard for us to connect with other women, right?
Yeah.
The competition and comparison pieces put to the side, this is another place, is if I'm with other women who are dropped into their bodies and I'm not able to drop into my body, that's uncomfortable. That doesn't feel safe.
I'd go hang out with the men.
Right?
Isn't that crazy? Right? Yeah.
Which is so interesting, because you'd think, oh, well, she wouldn't go hang out with men because it was a man that hurt her, and that while the man hurt you, there's also this bond with mom of like, okay, I can tell my story and be in my body and share what happened in my body and have another woman go, but no.
Because so many other women are also not in their bodies too. So we're constantly like throwing our trauma around. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I see this in mom groups a lot. I didn't know I was going to go here, but I want to go here for a second. I see this in mom groups a lot, where there's a lot of, I'm not in my body. So the way that I'm going to interact in this space is very cerebral and is frustrated and is, I'm going to vent and I'm going to get all these things out in a way that I think is me connecting. But in reality, like, I'm not really dropping into the feelings. Like, I'm not really letting myself see and feel what's actually upsetting me here. I'm going to stay surface level, and then I'm going to have these other women stay surface level with me and be like, oh, that sucks. Like, you should just, you should leave him, or you should not do that anymore, or whatever. And we never actually drop into there's a desire underneath of the complaint.
Yeah. I've been noticing, I never thought I'd go here either. I've been noticing this because we've been in COVID, but COVID in isolation has been beautiful for me to go even more inward. And my 15-year-old daughter is a goalie, and we started back at hockey last week in a first game. And I didn't even want to go in the arena because I don't want to be with the energy of exactly what you're talking about. Now, my daughter gave me permission. She's like, Mom, I'm not even playing this game. Go shopping. I'm like, okay, good, because I'm not ready.
Well, because that's gorgeous. You guys can have that conversation.
Yes. That I'm very, very open with my children. Like, so open. It is just brilliant. I love it.
So that moment in Mama Gina's, which if you don't know who Mama Gina is, please go Google Mama Gina. You're welcome. She's incredible. And that moment in her school, in her in-person, I don't even know what to call it, experience.
Yeah. I've been through a few. I've been through 2 experiences, 2 masteries, and a creation. I've worked with her solid for 2 years straight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm having all of the delicious, jealous feelings come up right now because it sounds incredible.
I will tell you when there's another one that's on in person. The in person is key.
Yes. 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 So that moment, was that the moment that you were like, okay, I can't go back there from here?
It actually started a little earlier than that.
Okay.
So it's started somewhat in 2013. I broke my ankle. There's another symptom of my body freaking out. I was going too fast. I was in my head. I was not thinking like in my body. I was just go, 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 go. I broke my ankle. I knew it at the time. I'm like, fuck, I need to slow down. Like I knew it. I needed to slow down. I had to have surgery. I was like off my foot for 12 weeks. Like it was a big, messy thing. So that year it started and things started to build and come to a head. It also started a little earlier in 2006 when my daughter was born. And I had 2 boys before that, right? So I really was like, how can a mother do this? Like there was something in the mother-daughter connection that really started. So that started. And then 2013 was another huge aha. And then 2017, everything started to come to a head in the beginning. Like I was just like, I wanted to like erupt and scream. Like I couldn't put up with this narcissistic, like commenting from my mother, from her demands, from all of the stuff that she was throwing at us and how she was acting, like even just being around her, it was just driving me bonkers. Plus I was pulling my children away for about 5 years or so by then because I had a daughter. So I was staying so far detached from my mom. It's actually why we got into rep hockey. This is my 13th year with rep hockey with my 3 kids, because it gave us permission to not go to the cottage. It gave us permission to not spend all of these holidays. I didn't want my daughter near him. There was something there that I had to pull away. So it really came to a head 2017. I'd signed up for the experience with School of Womanly Arts with Mama Gina, and I hadn't gone yet. And I was inviting a friend, and she looked at me and she goes, like I was bawling one night after a whole pile of talking we were doing one day. And she was like, I think you need to confront your mom. And I was like, are you nuts? No way. Like, no, like the world will blow up. Like you can't do that. Yeah. I was really, really scared. Isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh. And then
no, it's not. It's not crazy at all. I'm listening going, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah. And then the Me Too movement happened and I read everyone's stories. Like I searched for them to read more. And I was like, you guys are amazing, but there is no way I can do that. You don't know my mom. And then 3 days later, I was driving to Ottawa and it's like a 6-hour drive for me. And I pulled over for gas and I was like, screw it. And I posted my own quick. I was sexually assaulted by a very close family member. And like, that was it. That's all I could do. And I put my phone away and kept driving. But what I noticed when I stopped again for gas, because you got to stop twice on the way there, was, oh my gosh, I have all of these comments. And one of them was from my uncle and he made an angry face. And I was like, oh shit. Because like they're very close. Yeah. They're on the same lake at the cottage. And I was like, I'm in trouble now. Like I knew trouble was coming. Like I knew it. And he messaged me and he said, it's not too late to say something. And I was like, whoa, he's not angry at me. I was so like, he is a retired superintendent of Peel, which is like just beside Toronto Police. He ran Toronto Pearson Airport for years. The fact that this man was like, it's not too late to do something. I was like in tears. I reached out to him. He really, really supported me. We talked pretty well my whole drive home from Ottawa later that night. And he was incredible. And he gave me the strength to really start telling everyone. And I was super, super lucky that my mother was away on a cruise and I got to tell everyone before she got back. And then I confronted her. And I haven't spoken to her since because she won't talk to me. And I'm okay with that now. I'm truly okay with that now. At the time, it was devastating though.
I'm having lots of feelings, letting that whole piece drop into my body, because that is, first of all, I think like when you have that person believe you, that first person really believe you, it changes everything, right?
Yeah. It was the first family member to believe believe me because everybody
that
else,
first
even my
close
husband
person.
knew. My first family member who was around that was like, oh, I totally believe you. Yeah. He said, no adult covers up a 15-year-old child, 14-year-old child. Like that's, he knew, he said, before we were on a sexual assault call as a younger cop, before we were at the car, we were writing that person up. Nobody is doing that. And that was my stepfather's excuse to my mother. Yeah. So that felt huge. That gave me courage, huge courage.
Yeah.
And then I was supported.
I want to reflect back on something you said too, because how old were you at this point? If you don't mind me asking.
40. Took me till 40.
Yeah. Yes. Well, not that. I mean, good for you, right? Like so many women take these things to their graves. Like these stories are never shared. And so I think it's so beautiful that you did. And you are 40 years old, driving, posting something and thinking, I'm going to be in trouble.
I know. I can see how steeped in trauma I was now, in shame, in fear. I totally see it, but that's the thoughts going through our heads.
Yeah. It takes you back to that when you have trauma like that, it basically transports you back in the past in those moments and then pulls it into the present with you and then directly affects all of your future.
All of it, like my relationships, my parenting, how I showed up in the world, all of it. I could write you a 3-page essay on how many different ways, and that just be point form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes when we bury those things and we go, you know what, this isn't that important. You know, yes, that was a shitty thing. And like, I can move forward. It's fine. I don't need to do anything about it. I'll be okay. I'm saying all of these from personal experiences of personal experience of things I've said to myself after things, you know, that just isn't the truth.
No, it actually was killing me, killing me in so many ways. And it is, no matter what, it is creating also disease, and it's creating so another thing that went out after 3 babies was my thyroid. Hello, voice. Right. So it was killing me in so many ways.
As my background as a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, I worked in bone marrow transplant and hematology, and I also did some critical care and just some internal medicine. And one of the most interesting things to me now is I look back at all these things we were treating and I'm like, and that didn't respond to medicine, that, we couldn't figure out, why is this not working? And now I'm like, well, duh. Right.
Yeah.
And thyroid is one of those things, because your thyroid is what drives your metabolism and is so connected with your adrenal system, your pituitary, all of the hormonal chemical things in your body. And when we have trauma, that creates inflammation and that creates stress. And that tells our body basically to be in this, this reactive, activated state all the time.
Yeah. Corticals flying through us.
Yeah. You've got all of these jacked up chemicals. And after a while, your body is like, you know what? I can't keep up with this.
Yeah. Yeah. All that also reminds me, every osteo appointment, every massage, chiro, all of these appointments would never hold through my SI. They could never figure out what it was because it was in the body. It was literally trapped emotions, incomplete stress cycles living in my body.
So after that, where you had this moment of actual full expression of what was going on, and then you went through your work with Mama Gina, what other steps did you take to start really releasing and healing from this experience?
Yeah. Great question. So I went into deep dive, 2 solid years with Mama Gina, another couple of years with Layla Martin. I went into my own deep dive with a sex, love, and relationship coach certification with Layla Martin as well as female sexuality and tantric sex. And it's always been a part of my own curiosity and my own learning and my own healing and my own journey. I've done a ton of different things. I've studied the emotion code and got certified in that. I've studied trauma and done trauma programs and got certified in those. I've done, oh my gosh, what else? I've done so much. And it always started for me, for my healing. What is going to help me? What interests me? What turns me on to study?
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just went deep, deep, deep dive. I love to learn. Oh my gosh, I love to learn.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's really cool though, is you didn't just learn it, like you embodied it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. Like I've reclaimed, and this is part of, what I do. Like I actually use these words now because I literally reclaimed my boundaries, my body, my self-love, my time, my self-care, my voice, my mind, my turn on, my approval. And I reconnected deep, deep, deep into my body, into my sexuality, using sacred sexuality practices that allowed me to heal, to release, to complete stress cycles, and really just really reconnect to who I am. Brings me to my third point of remember. And the whole point of that remembrance is when we get that deep into our body, we tap into this portal that is just so, so beautiful. And we know no matter what, if anything, or if the world blows up, doesn't matter. No matter what, that we are good because there is such deep safety and such deep trust built into our body through that work.
Yes, you left me speechless there for a second. That's not something that typically happens. Yeah, I have become mildly obsessed with that word remembrance because that is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You knew there was a before and there is an after. And while we can't go back to the before, right? Like it's not a journey of trying to go back in time and have the things never happen. It's how do I remember who I was before that and alchemize it with who I am now?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the really powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reclamation of your power of, you know what, like all of these things happened to me and I still can remember who I am at my core, who I am in my soul, and move forward in a really beautiful, empowered way that allows me to express that without shame.
Mm-hmm. And so much more.
Yeah.
And so much more. And for people listening that are like, yeah, but that's a big journey. I don't think I have that in me. I really want you to know this piece. The best part of like really living and feeling free started as soon as I started speaking up. The rest, the whole journey I've been on has been fucking fun. Like really fun. Yeah, there's fear, there's grief, there's anger, there's pain, but I know how to alchemize it. And I was taught how to alchemize it. And I teach my clients how to alchemize it and to use that with our pleasure and to mix it. And it's not as scary as you think. The first scariest step is saying, screw it, I'm doing it. That is the mountain.
That's a really great point. And I'll second that because the minute I just was like, you know what, fuck it. I can't do this anymore. This is a line. This is a new before and after, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a new before and after. So from here on, like I'm in and I'm here for myself and like I will show up fully in support of myself, even if that means going to some scary, dark places. And even if that means having to cut people off because I've set new boundaries. And even if that means whatever, you're right. Like that moment is the biggest, hardest moment to be in and to make that decision. And when you do, it really does. It is downhill after that. And there are very hard moments. Like I'm not going to, we're not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's like sunshine and roses and it's totally easy healing from your trauma and releasing shame and like telling your mom, a story that makes her never want to speak to us again because this is a fundamental disagreement.
Yeah. But when you're held, which I was by sisters, I really learned to lean into sisterhood and my coaches. And when you see that there's a way to move this and to alchemize it and play with it, And in a week or two, you have like these most incredible ahas that you never dreamed of. You're like, okay, I'm willing to go there again.
Yeah. I cannot remember. Oh, she's a famous woman who speaks on this, and I'm not going to remember her name right now. I'll throw it in the show notes if I do. But I saw a TikTok with her yesterday, and she was talking about how you can't heal relational trauma that happened with someone else by yourself. How that's going to require you to really heal it, to really release it, to be in relationship with other humans who hold you and support you and show you that the very thing that created danger for you is now able to be safe.
Totally. Because that trauma and that fear and that conditioning puts us in a isolation cycle, right?
Yes.
Where we're stuck. And when we start to share our story, that is where we hear that almost every single woman has the same story in one way or another. Yeah. And that's when we're like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Right. There's a really huge healing in community.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that has actually been really interesting for me is, I started working just with women and started then working with other, all genders. And the fascinating part has been while this is predominantly occurring to women identifying humans, it's not only occurring with women identifying humans. And that, I think, is actually an even more shameful place that we go because of the patriarchal gender definitions that we place on who is supposed to show up how and what, who has control and who doesn't. And that the ability for anyone to recognize themselves in your story and then to feel comfortable finding their voice, I like to call it unsilencing yourself, is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it took me a little while to start working with men, and I do now as well. I work with couples specifically because I really see the importance of working through sacred sexuality as a couple, but I actually tweak my programs to also work with the woman alone on week 2 and the man alone on week 2, because we each have our own journey and then we can come together in the couples, which I love. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful. Because so often, in couples, there are trauma bonds. There's the person who wants to be saved and the person who wants to do the saving, or the person who wants to take everything and the person who wants to give everything. And those dynamics are born out of past painful experiences, not out of our true desires of how we want to be in relationships. So that's gorgeous that you're doing both the separate individual work of figuring out what's going on, and then also bringing them together relationally so that they can have a deeper understanding of how those things interplay.
Yeah, it just didn't feel complete before. It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much work that he or she or they or whoever had work to do that I felt like I was missing a huge piece and not honoring them and servicing them properly by not doing some private in even couples coaching. So I love that. Love it.
That too. So what's your life like now? I mean, you've told us a good amount, and actually your intro kind of told us that too. I loved that. Like, what's your life like now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so fucking fun. That's basically it.
I love it. That's beautiful.
I live like a totally pussified, like turned on, sexy, fun life. I really tap into all my emotions, all my sensations, all my feelings, all my pleasure. And I don't shut down anything anymore. I really stand unapologetically in my power. And I trust Pussy as my guidance GPS system. And she is online and I constantly keep her online. And I get to teach others how to do the same. And I'm so honored to do this work. It's just, my whole body's got shivers and chills right now. Like this is huge. We need this. Like the planet needs this.
Yeah.
More empowered women and men. And I'm so honored to do that and to raise children who are going to do the same or similar.
Yeah. That part, right? Yeah. You're breaking a pattern. You're breaking a cycle. You're literally changing the lineage, which is really cool. And also for my listeners who've now heard Kim say the word pussy a couple of times, if you're new here and you're like, what is happening? Go back to season 1, listen to P is for pussy. You'll feel better. I promise.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a huge piece here, is like learning as a woman what that means, who she is. I talk about her as if she's a she, who she is.
It is she. Yeah. And for me, it's more of the essence. It's also our womb. It's our deep, deep intuition center. It's all of it. All of it.
Yeah. And Mama Gina's book, Pussy, A Reclamation, is another gorgeous resource to go to for that, if that's something that you're interested in. Okay. So last question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to our listeners who maybe went through a similar experience to what you've shared? And what would you like to tell them? What would you like to say to them?
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. I know what I would have wanted to hear, which is you're not alone. Mm-hmm. You are so not alone. Trust yourself. Trust your body. Reach out. Get help. If the first person doesn't listen, reach out again. Keep reaching, literally, until you feel held and supported. And nothing's going to change until we claim this, right? And really speak up to it being not okay, until we heal collectively. So reach out. That would be the biggest thing.
Awesome. Yes, I know. If you can't tell by now, Kim is a safe space for that reach out to, and I am as well. So if I need to tell a stranger what happened before I tell anybody who knows me whatsoever, and be held in confidence and have someone say, I believe you, I know I'm here for that.
Totally. I offer free calls always. I don't care if you need a couple, it does not matter. I really, really want to hold that space for that healing, that really incredible healing. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Kim, thank you so much. You're actually have reflected back to me how much more dropped in I am into my body than I used to be, because, this is a hard topic to talk about, especially if this is with someone who's gone through it and as myself going through it. And you just reflected back like, oh, okay, I can actually feel this as you're talking. So I want to thank you for that gift. And if this has, for our listeners, like if this has felt uncomfortable, that's normal. That is so normal. And I really want you all to hear that and know that, and, do whatever you need to do after this in order to ground back in, to take a couple deep breaths, to get comfortable. And we're just glad that you joined us. So thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Before I forget, because I wanted to forget this and I caught myself. I'm so proud of myself. If people would like to work with you further, I know you just said that you offer free calls. What are you currently up to? What are the things you're doing that are really turning you on right now that you're offering?
For sure. Thank you. Definitely free call, private, one-on-one, anytime you want, anytime. But I also have this fabulous free monthly Sexy Back Salon series. Next one's on October 13th. They're always the second Wednesday of each month. And it's a beautiful series for an hour and a half, where we really get to reconnect to your body, to your sensuality, to your passion, to your pleasure. It always has a free masterclass. And then we get right into some tools where I'm sharing embodiment tools and practices, the same ones that I use. I don't hold stuff back. The same ones that have gotten me to where I am. So that one's super, super fun. And they also have a tantric sex weekend retreat coming up for couples and for women only, for solos.
Ooh, very cool.
So you can join either one. It doesn't matter. But this is the perfect way to activate your turn on, to awaken your passion, unleash your pleasure on an exquisite sensual adventure. So that one's early November. The first weekend's retreat for couples, and the second weekend is retreat for singles. And I say women only, just to quickly clarify that it's just women identifying women for that weekend. And you could still be in a relationship. You don't need to be single, but it's women who want to attend alone. So, yeah.
Are they in person or virtual?
All virtual.
Oh, very cool. Because I was like, you're in Canada. I don't think that my country and your country are letting people do the things right now.
Not totally. I am going to Naples in November too, and I might offer a VIP day. I was just playing with that today, but in Florida. But this is all virtual because it is discreet, and I know a lot of people want a little bit more privacy in tantric sex and learning what it is and how to use it as a couple or how to use it on solo, which is the same as sacred sexuality. And it's really just learning the tools to drop into our body, to be present, to turn on or turn on, like to activate that and to spice it up and to really reconnect and heal. A lot of healing in it too.
I'm so glad I did not forget that question because that sounds incredible. And now I'm like, what am I doing the first weekend of November? That sounds fun. So thank you for sharing that.
Fabulous. I'd love to have you.
And we'll drop the links where people can find that, more information on that in the show notes. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kim. Have a great week. We will see you next week. Thank y'all so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to our episode. If it resonated with you, we'd absolutely love it if you'd give us a rating in the App Store or if you'd share the episode with a friend or two. And if you're looking for even more resources, community, and education around what it means to be trauma-informed and to live a psychologically safe life, we would absolutely love to have you join us in our free Facebook community, Becoming Trauma Informed. You can find the information in the show notes, and we're so excited to welcome you into our community.